The Crimson Web. The air in the old Queenslander home was thick, with the scent of jasmine and the quiet hum of an afternoon, a deceptive calm. Bronte, Patricia, and Sum Sum sat on the veranda, their conversation a gentle murmur, while Nia, a curious 1-year-old, played with her blocks. But a sudden, unsettling silence fell, a void that swallowed the familiar sounds of the bush. Lola Cora, their beloved mother and grandmother, a middle-aged Asian woman whose spirit was as wild and deep as the bush itself, had been tending her cherished garden, and now she was gone. Not a trace, not a whisper. She wouldn't just wander off, Patricia stated, her voice tight with a worry that felt like a physical ache. Sum Sum, a small Asian girl with long, dark hair that brushed her waist, her bright, observant eyes now narrowed with a preternatural focus, was already checking the perimeter, her brow furrowed in concentration beyond her years. Nia, usually content with her play, sensed the shift in mood, the sudden chill in the air, and let out a soft whimper, her tiny hand reaching for her mother. Lola Cora was a creature of profound habit, deeply rooted in their lives, and this disappearance was a violent rupture in their world. As dusk deepened, painting the sky in hues of bruised purple and angry orange, a chilling whisper seemed to slither through the eucalyptus leaves, a sound that was both ancient and malevolent. Bronte remembered the old tales Lola Cora used to tell, not just bedtime stories, but cautionary legends woven into the very fabric of their land, stories of the bush's darker inhabitants, of the queen redback spider who spun webs not just of silk, but of fear, of forgotten memories, and of souls lost to the encroaching shadows. A shiver, not from the cooling air, ran down her spine. They searched for hours, their calls echoing unanswered into the vast, silent bush, each shout swallowed by the oppressive darkness. The air grew heavy with unspoken dread, a suffocating blanket of fear. Then, Nia, with her sharp young eyes that seemed to perceive truths adults often missed, spotted it. A single, impossibly fine, crimson thread caught on a wattle branch, shimmering faintly in the moonlight like a drop of solidified blood. It was unlike any spider silk they had ever seen, pulsating with an unnatural energy, a silent, terrible invitation. Patricia, who had spent her life studying the bush, whose hands knew the texture of every leaf and the scent of every bloom, recognized the ominous sign with a sickening lurch in her gut. "The queen, redback," she whispered, her voice barely audible, a raw confession of fear that tightened Bronte's chest. Lola Cora must have ventured into her territory. We have to go after her. But this is no ordinary rescue. This is a descent into a place where reality itself is a fragile thing. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air, a chilling prophecy of the trials to come. Sum Sum, despite her small stature and long, dark hair, possessed a sharp, analytical mind that cut through the rising panic. "We'll need supplies," she stated, her voice surprisingly steady, a beacon of logic in the swirling fear. "And we'll need to be smart. The queen redback doesn't just trap with silk. She traps with illusions, with doubts, with the very fabric of our memories." Bronte, though her heart pounded a frantic rhythm against her ribs, felt a surge of fierce, protective resolve. They would bring Lola Cora home, no matter the cost. They gathered their gear with a grim efficiency, sturdy boots laced tight, powerful torches cutting through the encroaching gloom, a compass that felt like a lifeline, and a small, worn pouch of dried herbs Lola Cora had always kept for protection. A small comfort against an unknown terror. Nia, clutching a small, soft toy, her eyes wide and unblinking, insisted on coming. "Lola needs me," she babbled, her young voice unwavering, a tiny beacon of pure, uncomplicated love. The bush transformed under the cover of night, its familiar sounds replaced by an unsettling symphony of rustles and whispers that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The crimson threads became more frequent, glowing faintly, pulsing with a malevolent light, leading them deeper into a part of the bush they had never dared to explore, a place where the air grew heavy and the shadows danced with unseen things. Their first encounter with the queen's trickery was a shimmering mirage of their own home, bathed in a warm, inviting light, beckoning them back to safety, to comfort, to the illusion of a life untouched by this horror. Don't look directly at it, Patricia warned, her voice firm, cutting through the seductive illusion, her hand shielding Sum Sum's eyes. Sum Sum, remembering her lessons from Lola Cora, used her knowledge of the constellations, the unchanging stars, to keep them on track, ignoring the deceptive light that promised solace but offered only oblivion. Naya, however, saw something different, something beyond the Queen's deceit. Through the shimmering, distorted illusion, she glimpsed a faint, familiar glow. The warm, steady light of Lola Cora's old lantern always carried on her evening walks, a beacon of truth amidst the Queen's trickery. It was a thread of reality in a tapestry of lies, a tiny pinpoint of hope. "Mama," she cried, her tiny finger pointing with an unerring certainty that shamed their adult doubts. Following Nia's innocent, unwavering lead, they pressed on, the illusions growing stronger, more insidious, twisting their most cherished memories, whispering doubts into the deepest corners of their minds. Bronte held onto Nia's hand, her grip firm, a silent vow to protect this tiny spark of truth. She reminded herself of Lola Cora's indomitable strength, of their family's unbreakable bond, a bulwark against the psychological assault. Just as despair threatened to consume them, a tiny, iridescent green light flickered in the darkness. The flickering light zipped and darted with impossible speed, then coalesced into a miniature figure with delicate, shimmering wings, no bigger than Bronte's thumb. She had dark green skin, a tiny gumnut helmet, and gumleaf armor, radiating an aura of ancient power. "Greetings, brave ones," a voice chimed, surprisingly clear and strong for its size, resonating with ancient wisdom. "I am Bush Banane." Lola Cora's spirit, her fierce love for you, called to me. Patricia knelt, her eyes wide with a wonder that momentarily eclipsed her fear. "A bush fairy?" she murmured, a childhood memory resurfacing, a spark of magic in the gloom. Bush Banane nodded, her tiny form radiating a gentle, reassuring light. The Queen Redback's power grows, trapping not just bodies, but souls in her crimson web, feeding on their fear and forgotten memories. Only the Bush Fairy Princess can grant you the means to truly face her. I can lead you to her, but the journey requires courage beyond measure, a willingness to confront your deepest fears. With renewed hope, a fragile but potent flame, they followed Bush Banane, who zipped ahead, her iridescent light illuminating a hidden, winding path through the dense, ancient undergrowth. Deeper they went, the air growing sweeter, filled with the scent of night-blooming jasmine and damp earth, until they reached a clearing, bathed in a soft, ethereal light that seemed to emanate from the very earth. In the center, seated upon a throne of intertwined gum branches and glowing wildflowers, was the Bush Fairy Princess. Her eyes held the profound wisdom of ancient forests, and her presence was both gentle and immensely powerful, a silent force of nature. "Brave souls," the princess's voice resonated, a melody of rustling leaves and flowing water, a song of the earth itself. "Your love for Lola Cora shines brightly, a beacon that pierced the darkest web. The Queen Redback preys on fear, on isolation, but love is the strongest magic, the most potent shield. Take these." She held out 4 iridescent feathers, each shimmering with a unique, vibrant hue, pulsing with an inner light. "They are gifts from the oldest trees, imbued with the enduring spirit of the bush, a piece of its ancient heart. And with them, for Bronte, a spear forged from ancient ironbark, imbued with the bush's unyielding strength. For Patricia, a bow strung with moonlit vine, capable of firing arrows of pure light. As they each touched a feather, a profound warmth spread through them, a surge of power and hope. The feathers pulsed, growing, swirling around their bodies in a vortex of light and magic. In a flash, they transformed. Sturdy, lightweight armor formed, intricately woven with leafy patterns, a living part of the bush itself. From Bronte's hand, the ironbark spear solidified, humming with power. From Patricia's, a sleek, luminous bow appeared, its string shimmering. And from their backs, unfurled magnificent gossamer wings, shimmering like dragonfly wings, ready to carry them to battle. With these, you can fly, the princess instructed, her voice a gentle command. But remember, true flight comes not just from wings, but from a fearless heart, a spirit unburdened by doubt. Bush Benene zipped around them, demonstrating graceful loops and dives, a tiny master of the air, her movements a blur of green light. Hesitantly, Bronte and Patricia spread their new wings, feeling the exhilarating air currents lift them, a gasp of awe escaping their lips. Sum and Nia, with youthful abandon and pure joy, were already trying to flap, giggling as they wobbled, their spirits soaring. Now to Bunya Mountain, Bush Benene chirped, her voice a clear bell. As they soared above the bushland, a flash of vibrant green and red joined them, a familiar splash of color against the moonlit sky. It was Bubba, Lola Cora's Eclectus parrot, who had followed their trail, drawn by the magic and the scent of their determination. Squawk! Lola! Bubba cried, her voice echoing their shared resolve, a feathered warrior joining their quest. The flight was long, stretching across vast, moonlit plains and over winding rivers that snaked like silver ribbons through the sleeping landscape. They flew higher than they had ever dreamed, the stars like scattered diamonds above them, until the majestic, ancient silhouette of Bunya Mountain finally loomed before them, its tallest tree piercing the sky like a sentinel. The air grew thinner, colder, filled with an electric tension that prickled their skin. At its very peak, a sinister crimson glow pulsed the malevolent heart of the Queen Redback's domain. They descended, landing silently near the summit, the air thick with the Queen's oppressive power. There, suspended amongst ancient, gnarled trees in a grotesque cocoon of silk, was Lola Cora, frail but undeniably alive, her dark hair tangled in the sticky, glowing threads. And guarding her, a monstrous, eight-legged shadow, its red back glowing menacingly, its many eyes fixed on them with ancient malice, the Queen Redback. From the depths of the web, hundreds of tiny, scuttling shapes emerged, a baby spider army, their minuscule fangs glinting, ready to defend their queen, a tide of creeping horror. Release her, Bronte roared, her voice amplified by her newfound courage, her magic spear held high, a challenge echoing across the mountain. The queen hissed, a sound like dry leaves scraping, and the first wave of baby spiders surged forward, a silent, deadly wave. The battle erupted. The baby spider army swarmed, a living tide trying to entangle their wings and armor, their tiny fangs snapping. Patricia, with her new magic bow, drew back a shimmering string, and arrows of pure light streaked through the air, incinerating clusters of the smaller spiders, creating momentary clearings in the chaos. Bubba, the Eclectus parrot, dive-bombed the spiders, squawking fiercely and pecking at their eyes with surprising force. Bush Benene, tiny but fierce, zapped the spiders with bursts of powerful magic from her gum leaf armor, scattering them with bright green flashes. While the others held back the tide, Bronte, with a fierce cry, launched herself at the Queen Redback. Her magic spear, glowing with the bush's strength, met the queen's venomous fangs in a shower of sparks, the clash echoing across the mountain. The queen lunged, her 8 legs scuttling with terrifying speed, trying to ensnare Bronte in her sticky crimson threads. But Bronte was swift, deflecting attacks with her spear, her movements a dance of courage and determination, a blur of leafy armor and shimmering wings. The queen, enraged by Bronte's resilience, let out a piercing shriek that momentarily stunned the smaller spiders. Sum, seeing an opening, zipped past the queen's head, her small size a blur, momentarily distracting the monstrous spider with her agile flight. Nia, perched on Sum's shoulder, let out a joyful, piercing squeal that seemed to vibrate with pure, innocent energy, further unsettling the queen, who recoiled slightly. This momentary lapse allowed Patricia to unleash a volley of light arrows, striking the crimson threads that bound Lola Cora, weakening them significantly, causing them to fray and glow less intensely. Lola Cora stirred, a faint flicker of recognition in her eyes, her hand reaching out weakly towards her family. With a final, powerful thrust, Bronte plunged the spear deep into the Queen Redback's glowing red back, a shriek of ancient malice erupting from the monstrous arachnid as its form began to dissolve into shimmering dust. The crimson web, now devoid of its queen's malevolent power, began to unravel, and Lola Cora, weak but free, fell gently into Patricia's arms, who had created a net of light with her bow. The baby spider army scattered into the retreating shadows, their malice broken, and the first rays of dawn painted the sky in hues of rose and gold, banishing the night's terrors. Bronte, Patricia, Sum Sum, and Nia, still adorned in their magical armor and wings, gathered around Lola Cora, embracing her tightly. Tears streamed down their faces, tears of relief, of joy, of profound love. Even Bubba perched on Lola Cora's shoulder, nuzzling her cheek, while Bush Bannonet hovered nearby, a tiny smile on her face. It was a tearful, triumphant group hug, a silent promise that they would always protect each other and the ancient bushland that had given them such strength. With Lola Cora safely nestled in Patricia's arms and Nia securely held by Bronte, they spread their shimmering wings once more, ready for the flight home. The bush, no longer a place of terror, seemed to hum with a new, peaceful energy, a silent thank you for their bravery. They had faced their deepest fears, embraced the magic of the ancient land, and brought their beloved Lola Cora back from the crimson web, their bond stronger than ever, forever guardians of the bushland's profound and ancient secrets.